All right. Pressing the little button on your screen. All right. Good morning, everybody. Morning. Good morning. Good morning. My thought for you today is on what it feels like to fall short of the goal, to fall short of your aspirations. And the thought, the reasoning behind that, or the thought behind that, is that we begin a yoga practice, or we begin anything, right, with an aspiration that we have some sort of a goal that we're trying to achieve, or that we're trying to manifest, or that we're trying to get to. And usually what we're trying to get to is somewhere different in some way from where we are, right? That's the concept of progress, right? It's we're getting somewhere other than where we are. And what tends to happen in any of this sort of process is that we start moving towards that aspiration, and we're very confident in the beginning, and then we start to hit the reality of what it means to actually change or grow or evolve. And we say, oh, well, maybe not. Right? We get so far, and then we start to say, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or this is different than what I thought it was going to be. It's not turning out the way that I hoped, and maybe I'll just stop right here, right? And so you can imagine any number of times in your life when you've done that, where you've said, I'll just stop right here. And maybe you've really patted yourself on the back, as you should, and say, I got this far. But when we make this habit of we only get so far, and then we limit ourselves there, and we say, that's the best I can do, and we stop looking any further, is that's the best we'll ever do, right? Or that's the most we'll ever experience, or that's the furthest we'll ever go, right? And so the yogic practice, or the yogic teachings, are where we're asked to go right to that point that feels so vulnerable, because to go any further is terrifying, or to go any further risks failure, or to go any further means that we are no longer sure that we can be what we say we want to be, or that we can do what we say that we want to do. We're not sure anymore. But to go to that really vulnerable place is the greatest aspiration of this practice, right? And to keep going to it over and over again, and not running from that feeling of maybe I'm not going to succeed. Maybe I'm not going to be able to be what I think I want to be, or do what I want to do. If we don't run from that, then we are able to go deep into the experience of what we actually are, right? Who we actually are, what we're actually accomplishing. And that going deep with ourselves, deep into that vulnerable place, is where openness really happens. And when that openness really happens, then maybe our thoughts about those aspirations start to change. We don't start to feel that kind of cling of, I need this to happen to feel the way that I want to feel. I need this to happen to think of myself the way that I want to think of myself. Instead, we start to actually just receive everything that really is there, which is often deeper. I would say every time deeper than what we're reaching for outside. But the challenge for us is that, especially the longer we've been practicing, is we get so far in, we get used to getting so far in, and then we stop and we say, that's enough. I don't want to push any further. I don't want to move any further. I don't want to go into that vulnerableness any deeper. And so that's as far as we ever go. So my suggestion to you is to reach for that vulnerability every day. Right? And have that be your new aspiration. If you need an aspiration, is to say, I'm going to keep moving towards that, and allowing myself to keep opening deeper and deeper and deeper into the experience I'm really having. Not where I hope to be one day, but where I'm actually am right now. Can I go very deep with myself right there? And that's where we start to transcend our fears, our doubts, and even our aspirations. We transcend it. And what's left with that transcendence, we have no idea what it will be. But what's left with that is often greater than what you thought you were going to get by succeeding, right? So comfortable seat if you're not there already. But to go deep with yourself and finding those places that are already open. This is how they say it in Buddhism, right? You find the places in you that are already open, and not open necessarily in an easy way, but in a vulnerable way. You go to it. And by going to it and not running from it, we start to feel those walls crack a little bit, or we start to feel the relaxation. We start to feel the aspirations, the need to be or do something more fall away. So just go to that vulnerable place with the eyes closed, drop your awareness from wherever it feels like it is. Usually it's up here in the head somewhere. Drop it down and keep dropping it down. and keep dropping it down. And don't get caught wherever you usually stop and say, all right, that's deep enough. Keep going. Dropping down through the layers of pranic body, the mental self, the emotional self. Don't stop there. That's not all you are. It's not even what's most important. Drop it down deeper, where everything arises from. You drop down, 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 all the way even into the center of the earth. If you like that image, drop yourself down. You can imagine this dropping yourself into the deep dark. Bring your awareness deeply in. And whatever you find, whatever arises into that, just notice it. Do your best not to run. Do your best not to push it back into the closet. Do your best not to place it to the side where you always place it and say, I'm going to pretend you aren't there. Drop down deep. It's in that feeling of what is unnamed, uncategorized, uncontrolled, unexpected, unconditioned. Right? In that deep dark, as you have the same infiniteness as you have in the blue sky. So we say we reach for the blue sky to feel how big we are. Deep into that dark, you are just as big. Practice sitting with that feeling of the unnamed, vulnerable. Don't stop yourself from feeling it, and don't run. Move with it, talk with it, do whatever you need, but don't run. Deep exhales, go down. Don't diagnose yourself, just go down. One more full breath, get heavy in your seat, really go down. And then bring the hands together at the heart center, palm to palm. And as we start with the sound of Om, let your Om be like you're trying to fill that inner space. If you're in the deep dark or the void, as you're filling that space with sound. Deep breath in. And let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release the hands. Bring your hands to your knees or your thighs, and then begin to cat-cow your spine. Inhaling, heart up. Exhaling, rounding back. Good. Finding your movement, a seated cat-cow. Nice. And going back to one of the sort of our classic stories, the birth of Lakshmi, or the rising of Lakshmi out of the ocean of consciousness, the ocean of milk. And the story, of course, runs in the way that most stories in the yogic tradition run. And that's that the world is dying, right? The whole backstory about why the world is dying doesn't matter. The world is dying. And in order to save it, we need the nectar of immortality. And so the gods and the demons, Vishnu says to them, is that everybody's got to go all corners of creation and bring the best and the worst of everything you can find, bring it back. So everybody has to participate. It's not the good guys are doing all the work and the bad guys are just sitting around. It's everybody has to participate or this doesn't work. So they go grab everything and they bring it to the ocean of consciousness, the ocean of milk, and they throw it all in, and then they have to churn it. They have to move it. So start to move your cat-cow a little bit faster, almost like a Kundalini cat-cow. So the hands stay at the knees, but you're moving your ribs forward and back between the arms. Good. So it's less of a tilt of the head and it's more of a forward and back. of the rib cage. Good. So again, it's a conscious movement, just a little faster than what you were doing. Stay with your breath though. Right. So as they're churning the ocean of consciousness, right, the very first things that start to arise are poison. So everybody freaks out and they stop what they're doing because they're running from the poison. So the whole process begins to break down because everyone's scared that the poison is going to kill them. They're all going to die. Until Shiva steps in and says, I'll take care of it. He swallows the poison, right? Holds it at his throat, dissolves it because, right? What is Shiva? That unmanifested reality, that unmanifested place of consciousness. He says, there's nothing that you can create that's going to be bigger than me. There's nothing your mind that can create that is bigger than that. Nothing's bigger than your soul. Come back to stillness, please. Good. Take the hands back behind your head, elbows wide. And as you press the head back so you have a long throat, bring your elbows slightly forward. Good. And then start to lift your chest up towards the sky. So you're coming into what feels like a back bend, but you're pressing down through your seat. Draw your ribs in, but tilt your collarbones up and squeeze those elbows in just a little bit more. And then feel like you're pulling down through your armpits as you lift the collarbones. Good. One more breath, chest up, collarbones up. Beautiful. And then come all the way back up. Please stretch the arms up to the sky. Interlace your fingers, press the heels of the hands all the way up. Pull up through your middle rib. So instead of the spine arching, pull in and get longer. Good. And then lean to your right side, body stretch. Good. I'll go the same way that you're going. Nice. And then come all the way back up and lean to your left, go the other way. Still pushing out through the hands, rotating those pinkies, drawing the armpits wide. Good. And then all the way back up to center, please. Stretch the arms out and down, big circle. Nice. And then release the hands forward, come onto hands and knees, and find your way back into downward facing dog. Downward dog, plant the hands, tuck the toes, lift the hips. Good. Let the knees bend if you need. Again, first down dog of the day. So feel the length of your spine as the knees bend, pull the tops of the thighs back and feel that real reach through the arms. So just like you were extending the arms overhead when you were seated, extend the arms here. Actually feel yourself pressing out and down through the knuckles of your hands. Good. Feeling the armpits pull back, thighs back. Nice. And then steady the heels towards the floor if they're still moving. Nice job. And then bring your right knee forward towards your chest. Don't move your armpits though. Just pull your knee in towards your chest. Good. Yep. So keep your spine long, hips up. Good. Nice, Jane. And then extend that right leg up and back down, dog split, reach out. Good. Same thing. Bring the knee in towards your chest without moving the armpits. Keep your hips pulling back. Squeeze the thigh in, but hips back. Good. Take that right leg up and back again, down, dog split. Keep those toes pointing down. Good. One more time. Pull that knee in. Again, keep the hips back. Don't bring those armpits forward. Good. And then send the leg up and back behind you with the leg straight. Stack the hip, right hip on top of left. Turn those toes open. Good. Keep your left low belly lifted and wide. Nice. And then scooping the belly, turn the right toes back down towards the floor. Step the right foot between the hands. Lunge. Good. Hooray. Foot to the floor. Drop the back knee, please. Take both hands inside the front foot. Walk your hands towards the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Come up on your fingertips, hands a little bit wider. Good. And then you're breathing into that softening of your chest. So as you exhale, you're letting the elbows bend, chest dropping towards the floor. And as you inhale, you're rising back up. So keep that front heel anchored to the floor and just moving the upper body. Good. So again, the idea is not to, in your mind, think of it as doing push-ups because that's going to create a different action, but to be instead that as you're exhaling, you're widening the armpits, feeling the arms pull into the upper back. So you're trying to find greater openness, more space, not about I'm working my arms, right? You might also be working your arms, bonus. Good. Nice, Susan. Excellent, you guys. You're moving with your breath. Don't make the breath about your movement. Make your movement about your breath. Good. Nice. As low as those shoulders come inside that knee, that's what creates, again, space on the spine, space for the hip. Next time you lower down, come all the way down to the forearms if that's available, or you can use blocks underneath the elbows or stay on fingertips, but drop yourself low. This idea of dropping, right? Dropping wherever you hold your mind, wherever you hold yourself habitually, saying, if I just hold myself here, then I'll keep progressing or I'll keep getting somewhere. I can't let go because that means I might slip, I might fail. Practice letting go and feeling that vulnerableness of, whoa, maybe I will fail. Whoa, maybe what I'm asking for is crazy. Oh, maybe what I'm trying to do is impossible. Practice letting go of that feeling that if I just cling, I can still succeed. If I just cling, I'm in control. Drop it. Relax through that upper back. It's in that place of vulnerability that we are able to transcend those moments where we think our own poison, right? That's the metaphor of this story, is our own poison is going to destroy us. Instead, the Buddhists say it becomes medicine when you drink it. It becomes the greatest aspiration. When you sit close to it, then you open to so much more. What's beyond your fear? Walk yourself all the way back in, please. Nice job. Scoot your left hip back so it's on top of that left knee. Take your right leg forward to straight, Ardha Hanumanasana. Good, so you're still kneeling. You just have that right leg straight up on the heel. There you go. Good, you guys. And then bring both hands to the inside of the front foot. Good, again, walking the hands just a little bit towards the left. So Robin, not a full Hanuman, just move back so that just the front leg is straight. Left hip on top of left knee. There you go.
Like this.
Further back.
Oh.
Yep, and now straighten your right leg.
Oh.
Nope, back leg down, front leg straight.
Oh,
there you go.
So
Both hands inside the front foot. Good, turn those right toes inward, you guys. As the toes turn in, take your right butt cheek nice and wide. Yeah, and as you turn that right butt cheek wide, just feel like you're pulling your left inner thigh wide to the left, so you have a stability on that supporting leg. Good. Nice, Andra. Nice, Kristen. One more breath, you guys. Really pull the inner thigh wide, push that butt wide, and then feel as though you're digging that heel down into the floor. Scoop into the lowest part of your belly and start to draw that right sit bone back in space. Let those right toes come back up to straight, but keep pushing the inner thighs wide. Good. And then walk yourself forward, maybe even a little bit more on that diagonal. Nice, both Janes. Good, you guys. And then walk yourself back in towards that front leg, please. Good. Now take the hands to the baby toe side of the foot. So walk towards that outer edge. Good. Again, keeping the hips as level as you can, pressing those inner thighs wide. That's the key, right? If you keep pressing your inner thighs wide, there's going to be space for you to move in this position. Good. If we don't keep our attention there, then you might just go to where you always go in this pose and get stuck. One more breath. Good. Walk yourself all the way back to center, please. Move forward onto that right foot again. Come back to the low lunge and then lift the back knee. You got it. Step that left foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvottanasana. Use blocks underneath the hands if you need. Good. Nice, you guys. Make sure your feet are as wide as your hips, right and left. So if you feel like you are standing on a tightrope, move yourself wider. Good. Then squeeze your feet towards each other, round into your back. So actually pull up through the lowest part of your spine. And now move that right hip back and wide as you draw your outer left hip forward with your back rounded. Good. Now start to lengthen your spine, keeping the hips pulling back. Draw your armpits forward, come up onto your fingertips. So lift and lengthen, long spine, like you're going to straighten your back, lengthen your spine. Good. And then exhale, round again, dropping the forehead towards the shin, any amount, pulling up through the lowest part of your belly. Nice. And then step your left foot back just a little bit further, a little bit wider, turn the toes out to 45 degrees. So setting up for warrior one. And then bend the right knee. Keep your hands on the floor or blocks for a moment. Good. So you're setting up for warrior one, but your hands are on the floor. Good. So I want you to really work this action of the legs where your back thigh lifts up and back, and you're still drawing that outer right hip, your front hip back and wide, still pushing the inner thighs wide. Good. Now scoop that lowest part of your belly up off of your thigh, and now start to stretch the arms forward and up. Come all the way up into warrior one. Don't fling yourself up, but rise up. Good. And then continue to rise. Don't stop. So you keep the front of the thighs lifting, or the front of the hip points, sorry, lifting. Pull up through your collarbones. Keep lifting. Keep pulling longer and longer and longer and longer. Don't get to that point in the pose where you say, this is my warrior one, and you stop. Keep drawing that left rib cage forward. Rise up taller. One more deep breath, ribs wide. Good. Take your torso forward, parallel to the floor. Pause. Yeah, extending out. And then round your back like you're doing cat-cow. So pull everything in, round, 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 round. Get steady in those legs. And then extend out again. And rise back up to a full warrior one. Heart to the sky, arms to the sky. Yeah, maybe even lift your gaze. There you go. Nice, Robin, nice, Mark. And then slowly release the hands down to the floor. Good, spin your back heel up, step back, down dog split, right leg comes up and back behind you. Nope, right leg, front leg up. Good, bend that knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the right hip on top of the left, and circle that knee, make little circles, big circles, but open up that hip. Good, you guys. I know, lift and open that inner knee. Good, lift and open, pause. Really feel that outer hip. And then go ahead, point the knee down towards the floor, release the foot, deep breath in, deep breath out, drop to your knees, child's pose. I know that was a long sequence on one side.
Yes.
First thing in the morning. I'm aware. I'm very aware of what I ask you to do. I'm also very aware, or I'm very confident in your ability to not only find those poses, but to transcend just the physical sequence of, oh, I did this thing, right? Because ultimately we want our practice to be, or we hope the practice will be one where we find ourselves, not where we are just checking off on a list that says, I did this thing. And spend your entire life just doing things. But does it lead you anywhere inside? Right. So the second part of this story, of course, is that, all this poison comes out and everybody's freaking out until Shiva swallows it, takes it in. And so they get back to work, right? Churning the ocean of consciousness. And then what begins to arise after that poison is all of the brilliant things, right? The wish fulfilling cow and the wish fulfilling tree and the beautiful gems and the beautiful beings. And then Lakshmi, nectar of immortality in her hands. Bring yourself back up onto hands and knees and come back to downward facing dog. Even if you don't want to, come back to downward facing dog. Good. Nice, you guys. Left leg, left knee pulls in towards your chest, please. So pull it in. Good. Keep your hips lifted up and back, still in down dog, but pull that thigh forward. Good. And then extend that leg up and back behind you, down dog split, reach out. Good. And then bring the knee forward again, not bringing the armpits forward. Keep your hips pulling back as much as you can. And then extend that left leg back behind you. I know it's super frustrating, but that's what we want. And then bring the knee forward again, pull those hips back. So we're working that squeeze of the thigh in the hip socket, and then extend it all the way up and back, down dog split. Keep the leg lifted, stack the left hip on top of the right with the leg straight. So turn open with a straight leg. Good. So Andrea, just straighten the knee if you can. There you go. Good, you guys. And then scooping into your belly, turn the toes back down towards the floor, step the left foot between the hands, lunge. Good. And then drop the back knee, take both hands inside the front foot, walk towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat. Come on up on your fingertips, let your hands go a little wider. Good. And then again, not doing push-ups, but as you're exhaling, you're dropping your chest low, letting the elbows go wide, feeling the arms slide into the shoulder socket, and then rise up. That's really the point here, is that as you drop low and let the elbows go wide, is those arm bones can actually slide in to the shoulder socket. That's what you're looking for. Good. And stay with your breath. Again, make the movement about your breath, not the breath about your movement. Nice, you guys. Good, Allison. Nice, Heidi. Good, Diane. Keep that front heel flat. And the next time you start to lower towards the floor, drop down onto the forearms if that's available, or place blocks underneath the elbows, or stay on your fingertips. But drop yourself, right? Let go of the sensation of trying to get somewhere and instead be here. Whenever this here happens to be. Right? And so it's one way to interpret the story is that if we fight through our poisons, right, we deal with our poisons, is that the reward is that we get the blessings, the beautiful things, the Lakshmi, the whatever. But it's hardly a reward, right? Because it's something that is already existing in you. So it's not like you get something special or something new, is you just get what you've always had. That's the thing, is if we rewire that teaching or we rewire that interpretation that says, I don't have to get through my poisons, I actually have to just not run from them. I don't have to correct them. I just have to not run. And by not running, what arises immediately after that is what helps me transcend, what helps me become really in that state of open. But it's the not running that's the key. It's not the poisons or the blessings or whatever we think the process is. It's the not running. This is a dropping in. It's not an easy thing because the mind is not trained to do that. It's trained to run. So we practice going to where we feel the most vulnerable and staying, not in a painful way, just not running. Walk yourself all the way back up, telling yourself you're not running from that position. Good job though. Good. Move your right hip back so it's right in line with your right knee, and then take your left leg forward to straight. So Ardha Hanumanasana, the half split. Good. Both hands inside the front foot. Start to turn those left toes in. As the left toes spiral in, your left inner thigh and butt cheek go wide to the left. You can walk your hands slightly to the right to help just move in that direction. Good. Make a little space in that hip socket. Yeah, and that foot doesn't have to come all the way to the floor as it turns in. You just want there to be this rotation on the thigh. Good. And then scoop into the lowest part of your belly. Start to press down into that left heel. Good. And then as you start to draw that left hip crease back and wide to take those toes back up to center, feel both inner thighs widening. Good. And maybe press your sit bones back a little bit more. Tilt your tailbone up and back a little bit more. Good. And then walk your hands back in towards the center. Nice. Start to move towards the baby toe edge of the foot now, both hands to the outer edge of the leg. Nice. Keep the inner thighs pressing wide. So you keep that energy of widening, stability, and twist the torso to the left. Good. Keep dragging back on the heel so that there's not just yanking on the outer thigh. Good. And then bring yourself all the way back to center, please. Nice job. Good. Bend that left knee again, slide forward into that low lunge, and then lift the back knee. Good. Step your right foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight. Parsvottanasana. Again, using blocks underneath the hands if that serves you. Good. Turning that right low belly forward, left low belly up and wide. Really good. Nice. Check out your feet. Feel as though you are lifting the hips continuously. That's it. Nice, Harriet. And then squeeze the legs, please, round into your back. So pull up through your low belly. Yeah, round, round, round. So you really feel yourself able to press into your heels a little bit more. Good. And then come up on your fingertips, lift and lengthen your spine. So bring the heart center forward. Again, pulling back on the tops of the thighs, but lengthen. Good. And then round deeply again, dropping the head, pulling all the way up and in through the lowest part of your belly. Nice. And then step that right foot wide, a little bit wider, even a little further back if you'd like. Turn the toes out to 45 degrees. So again, you're setting up your legs for warrior one, but you're keeping your hands on the floor or your blocks. Good. So just for a breath or two, really feel again the anchoring down into the legs, back thigh pulling back as that front thigh moves forward. Equal. Good. And then pull up through that lowest part of your belly again. Stretch the arms forward and up, rise up into your warrior one, all the way from the base of your pelvis. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, and keep rising up through your armpits. Keep rising up through your collarbones. Keep rising. And let your breath fill in all of that space. You continue to rise. This is the physical part of the practice, is stretch your body here. Don't just find what seems like it should be warrior one and stop. Keep going. Warrior one goes on forever. You go on forever. That's what our mind is struggling to grasp. One more breath here, and then take your torso forward parallel to the floor. Imagine this is still warrior one. Pull your thighs back. Good. Round into your spine. So pull everything in, round, 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 round through your shoulders. Nice. And then extend all the way out through your armpits, but don't push the ribs forward. And then take the arms all the way up again, chest up, warrior one. Reach for the sky, not with your hands, but with your heart. Reach for the sky, not just with your heart, but with your mind. Yeah. And then release the hands down to the floor. Nice, you guys. Spin that back heel up and take your left leg up and back behind you. Down dog split. Good. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the hip, left hip on top of right, and then circle that knee, circle that hip. Good. Nice, Suzanne. Never call you Suzanne. Nice, Sue. Good. Nice, you guys. Lift and open, nice and wide. Good. Don't collapse in that lower back though. There you go. And then point the knee down towards the floor, release the foot to the floor, drop down to hands and knees, please, and begin to circle your hips, hip circles. I know you thought for sure that was supposed to be child's pose that came out of my mouth. It's hip circles. Good. Move your hips the other way, please. Good. And then come to stillness, please. Walk your hands back to take your hands to your hips. So you come to a high kneeling position. Coming into camel pose. So if you need a blanket underneath your knees, make sure you have it. If you want to block for between the upper thighs, go ahead and grab it. Good. And then toes can be tucked or untucked. You can also use blocks for the hands if you'd like. Good. Start with your hands at your lower back, please. So palms facing the sacrum, fingers pointing down. Good. So don't just reach straight for camel, hands at your lower back. I have a method here. Don't reach your hands for your feet yet. Good. So start by just lifting long through the front of your body. So pull up through the top of your hip points, get taller, get longer through your thighs. Draw your rib cage in, feel that press back of your sacrum into your hands. And now start to hug the upper arms, the elbows towards each other. Don't let the ribs pop out. Lift your collarbones up. So work the back bend from here, right? Almost like you're doing a kneeling bridge pose. Pull up. So it's not hips forward, it's everything long. Collarbones up, sternum up, sternum up, sternum up, sternum up. Throat long. Now keep that and start to lean back, hinge back. So let your thighs move back, but keep pulling up through your sternum. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Good. You should feel like you're extending the muscles of your back. Extend, extend, extend. Then let the hands drop towards your heels if you'd like, or keep them where they are. But keep working that upward action of your sternum, not the downward action of your hands. Upward action. Reach. Don't stop reaching. Really nice, Jane. Both Janes. Harriet, nice. Good, Susan. Good, Melody. And then navel to spine, please. Press into those shins. Come all the way up. Excellent. Remove the block if you have it between the thighs. Drop your hips back towards your heels. Let your forehead come to the floor. Reach back for your ankles or your feet. Pause for a moment. And then start to roll forward onto the top of the head. lifting the hips, rounding your back. Yeah. Nice, you guys. And then release the hips back down to your heels, please. Nice. Come up to sit on your heels just for a moment, eyes closed. And again, if sitting on your heels is not possible, you could use a block just for a breath or two. Find your spine. And if you never stop in your asana practice to actually feel what you're feeling and you're just running from pose to pose to pose, we never really absorb the benefit of what we're doing. The practice is don't run. In whatever way, any way that you can imagine or establish in yourself, don't run. Whatever your aspirations, don't run. Whatever your fears, don't run. One more deep breath, settling onto your heels, noticing where you are holding yourself away from that sensation. And then let the eyes float open again, release the hands back down to the floor. Find your way back to downward facing dog. Good. And then bring the right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Nice, bring that knee forward and wide, pigeon pose. Knee goes towards the right wrist. Good, sliding the left leg back behind you. Good. And then starting to walk yourself forward onto your fingertips. So pause for a moment with your arms extended. So come low, but keep your arms forward up on your fingertips. And then round your back a lot. So again, like you're doing the cat-cow thing again. So you're rounding into your back a lot. Good. So you feel where you normally dip into your lower back here. Keep that nice and full. And now start to, again, take your armpits forward without collapsing in your lower back and find your resting pigeon. So you can drop the elbows or use blocks, whatever you normally do. Good. Nice, you guys. Keep the front shin active so you are pressing it down into the floor. Good. Right, noticing how much you go into yourself to a certain extent, and then you stop every time. You have your process, right? This is how I handle this situation. This is how I handle that struggle. This is how I handle that fear. And you can watch yourself doing it. That's the crazy thing, is that if you really are paying attention, you can watch yourself go through the motions of this is how I handle this, just to the point where I feel it's handled. It's not gone, it's not resolved. It's just handled. And then I stop. And so we do this with our teachings, with our practice as well, right? This is how I do this pose every time. It feels the same way, and then I stop. This is how I practice meditation. I go this deep with myself, and then I stop. This is how I enact my yamas and niyamas. This is the extent of ahimsa that I'm willing to do. This is the extent of compassion that I am willing to feel. And then I stop. And don't worry about it. If you're like, oh, I don't want, that's not me. Yes, it is. It's me too. It's every darn person on the planet. Don't worry about it. It's not a criticism. It's just a noticing, right? That we stop ourselves over and over again. So that's really the practice, is can you keep reaching for that vulnerable state where you say, I'm unsure that I will be what I think that I am. I'm unsure that I know my soul. I'm unsure that I'm ready for that experience of infiniteness. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be ready. Right? The aspiration is just to be open. The rest takes care of itself. Take one more breath. And then start to walk yourself all the way back up, please, onto your hands. Sit towards that right hip. Swing your left leg around in front of you so you can stack your left knee on top of your right. Gomukhasana legs. If you need a block underneath you or a blanket, you're welcome to do that. And if this position really doesn't work for your knees, I know sometimes we say take the left shin in front of the right, but instead of that, if this position does not work for you, extend your right leg to straight and bring the left thigh over as though you were doing Gomukhasana. All right, so you still have that internal rotation on the left leg. Good, you can even pull the knee up towards your belly if that feels better. Nice. Good, you guys. So if you are in that full position and you can walk forward, go ahead and take a forward fold. Again, if that's not available, stay upright is perfect. Hands just behind you. Stacy, I'm not sure what you're doing there, but try and cross your left thigh all the way over. There you go. Yep, knee on top of knee. Perfect. Good. Always what you want to hear in class. I'm not sure what you're doing there. Try something else. Nice, you guys. Keep the feet awake, please. So feet flex, especially if the knees are crossed all the way. And breathe into your lower back here. So instead of focusing on wherever you think there is greater sensation, is focus on, can I breathe wide through my sacrum? Good. And take one more breath, as wide as you can go. And then slowly walk yourself all the way back up, please. Nice. Unwind the legs. Take your legs straight out into a straddle. So nice and wide. So unwind your legs. Take them wide in front of you. Good. And then dig your heels down and pop your knees up. So drag back on the heels till your knees lift up. Yep. Good. Don't let those toes rotate out or in. Keep them straight up and down. And then start to walk yourself forward between the knees, but keep your knees bent. So knees up. So Stacy, knees bent more. Allison, knees bent more. And you're like, oh, I don't need to bend your knees. Bend your knees. Again, there's a method here. Pull your heels back, bend your knees so that you get those hip muscles to work a little bit. Good. And then if you're coming pretty low towards the floor, start to thread your right hand underneath your right knee, your left hand underneath your left knee. Good. So it's like you're stretching the arms out wide and trying to drop your chest towards the floor and keep your knees popped up. Good. Yeah. The higher you take your knees, the easier that becomes. Good. Nice, nice, nice. One more breath, like you're dropping your chest to the floor. And then slowly unwind yourself, taking the hands out from underneath the knees. Let the legs go all the way to straight for a breath. Good. And then bring the legs back together, please. Bending the knees, crossing the ankles, roll forward onto hands and knees. And step back, downward facing dog. Good. Take a vinyasa if you'd like, or hang out in dog for a breath or two. The vinyasa is coming forward to plank pose, lowering down to your belly, rising up cobra. And coming back to downward facing dog. Again, making the movements about your breath. Good. So once you found yourself back in down dog, take the left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good, and then bring that knee forward and wide for pigeon. So Robin, switch your legs, please. It's okay. Good, you guys. So set yourself up well, right hip spinning forward, left hip goes up and wide. So you might actually have to physically kind of lift and move that hip wider because it's not going to naturally be where you usually place it. So move it wide. Good. And then start to walk yourself forward onto your fingertips. So arms extended up on fingertips. So don't just collapse onto your elbows, arms extended. And then round your back a lot. So I want you low to the floor. Good. But then I want you to round. So you might have to press into that back knee or back thigh and get into where you usually collapse in your lower back. Good. Pull that up. Nice. And then keep that nice and full as you start to let your armpits extend forward again, long spine, and then you can drop down onto your elbows or your blocks or whatever you'd like to support you in pigeon. Good. Nice, you guys. And of course, pigeon on your back is always an option if doing pigeon facing the floor simply does not work. Even if you're doing pigeon on your back, trying to find where you are really finding the full length of your sacrum, rooting down, where that ankle is pressing against the thigh, and the top of your thigh, the left thigh, is moving away from your low belly. Right? So it's a challenging thing to come into your poses and not say, oh, I got into the pose, I'm done. Every breath that you are in the pose, you are still evolving the pose. You are still embodying the pose. It's still opening. You have not completed it. Right? The idea that even when we have this sense of aspiration, that somehow we're going to reach the goal and then we can stop trying. We can stop reaching. We can stop opening. We can say, okay, I'm done. Time for a nap. Right? That process of opening to yourself is ongoing. It's every moment, which means that every moment we are potentially confronting that vulnerable place inside that says, I'm not sure that I am who I say that I am. I'm not sure that I'm going to succeed. I'm not sure. I don't know. What happens if I fail? It's okay. Time for a nap. But when we sit with those feelings and we stop whatever our mind's usual habit of running is, then we start to transcend those fears, not because they're gone, but because we actually understand what they are and what's beyond them. We actually become open to something more, instead of just doing what we always do to handle the fear. Right? Practice of yoga is stop just handling your life. Step one, right? And start really feeling. And that's not to say that whatever you have felt or what you usually feel is you not really feeling, that you're somehow mistaking your sensations for something else. I know you feel deeply. And can you also connect to that state of feeling that is unnamed, not just what you're used to feeling, but there is something unnamed that is bigger than that. And that you're already in it. That's the thing, is you don't have to enter it from where you are, is you're already in it. It's just that edge that is beyond what you're used to. It's just beyond. We'll take one more breath. And then start to walk yourself back up onto your hands, please. Sit on towards that left hip so that you can take your right leg around in front of you, stacking the right thigh on top of the left. Gomukhasana. And again, if you need blocks or blankets underneath, you use them. And again, if that position simply does not work, extend the left leg straight out in front of you and bring the right thigh over. Still like you're going to drop the knee on top of the left knee, but just have the right leg, have your left leg extended so that there's not the double action on the hips. Yeah, or what you're doing is perfect, Kristen, if you're good there. Right. The idea is that we still want that internal rotation on the top leg. And if we sit cross-legged, shin in front of shin, is we no longer have internal rotation. We have still stretch on the hips, but it's now external rotation. It's a different stretch. Good. If you can come forward, forward fold. And if where you are is enough, being upright, stay upright. Good. Keep your feet awake if you're coming forward, and if your knees are crossed, flex the feet. Flex your feet no matter what, but especially if you're coming forward. And then breathe into the lower spine. So again, expanding. Right? When we imagine that we're breathing there, it helps to actually intuitively use the muscles that breathe deeper into your belly. And whether you're good at doing that or not makes no difference, as it starts to bring awareness and it starts to create that sort of neuro pathway of your mind saying, oh, that's a thing we can do. All right. And you do have breathing muscles. You do have diaphragms that low in the body that move as you're breathing. So breath to the lower spine. Mind maybe into that deep dark that is the lowest of the chakras. The ones connected to that deep dark. Good. And then slowly start to walk yourself all the way back up. Nice. Unwind your legs, please. Again, taking the legs out and wide, so sit and straddle. And again, if you need a blanket underneath your seat, make sure you have that. So legs wide in a straddle. And then same thing, start to bend your knees, pull your heels back so your knees bend. Yeah, and actively press down through your sit bones. And then start to walk yourself forward again into that forward fold with the knees bent. Good. Don't let your toes roll in or out. You're trying to keep that rotation of the thigh bones neutral in the hip socket. Good. Keep bending your knees, please. Good. And then again, if you're coming pretty low, take the arms a little wider, start to thread the hands underneath the raised knees. Nice. An opportunity, if you are pretty low with the arms reaching underneath the knees, is start to wiggle your heels a little closer towards each other. Yep. Still with the knees bent, wiggle your heels a little closer towards each other. Keep dropping your chest. The idea is you keep going, taking the heels closer and closer and closer until it's like you're hooking your knees over top of your shoulders and you can hook your heels behind your head. So just keep dropping your chest and moving your feet until that happens. And don't worry about trying to make yourself get there. Just keep dropping your chest and saying, what happens if I wiggle my feet closer? Like a tortoise in its shell, keep going. And then if you're able to cross your feet around or near your head, then you can start to reach your hands to hold behind your lower back. So a full little bind there. Yep. I know. Tortoise pose. Just like Vishnu in the story becomes a tortoise to help balance or help to ground the ability of the demons and the gods to move that ocean of consciousness. Good, you guys. Last breath where you are. Don't run. And then slowly unwind. So starting to take the feet a little wider again, starting to take the arms out from underneath you. Good. Let the legs come out to straight. Nice. And then start to bring the legs back forward as you're ready. Nice, Allison. Give the legs a little bit of a shake. Take your hands back behind you, fingers pointing towards your heels. Good. So you can either keep the legs straight here for reverse plank, or you can bend your knees and plant your feet for reverse table. So your choice. But begin to lift the hips up. If you're keeping your legs straight, point the toes like your feet are going to come flat to the floor. Lift those inner thighs, lift your hips up, chest to the sky. And if your knees are bent, you're planting your feet, lifting your hips, same position, just bent knees. Good. Long throat. Nice, Jane. Nice, Susan. Good, Harriet. Nice, Alana. Nice, Alex and Buddy. Good, Kristen. Keep those inner thighs together. And then slowly release everybody, hips back down to the floor. Good, flex your feet. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Interlace your fingers, press the heels of the hands up towards the ceiling, get long. And then pressing your butt back, begin to bow forward. Again, extending from your hips to your armpits. Good, if you can, hook your hands around your feet. Good. If that sounds crazy, just keep reaching. Good. If you're wondering how you can get an arm extension to make that work, don't worry, just keep reaching. Dig your heels down, please. Press your butt back, even if that means your knees are bent. Good. And then slowly release, come all the way back up. Keep the legs extended, press your hands to the floor right alongside your hips. So a flat hand or fingertips if your hands can't come flat, but press down straight alongside your hips. Chest up, throat up. This is Dandasana, so the simplest and most complicated, right? Because you have to find length in all directions. So reach up through the top of your head, neutral chin, dropping the chin level with the floor. Press down into your hands so you feel that stretch on your shoulders, armpits lifting up, butt pressing down. Good, navel drawing in. Press your butt slightly back, but press your heels forward. Inner thighs down towards the floor, collarbones wide. Press into your hands, press through the crown of your head, press through your tail, press through your heels. Close your eyes. Say, squeeze everything, every single cell engaged. It's like herding cats. Every cell, get in here. The good ones, the bad ones, the parts of you that you understand, the parts of you that you don't understand, the things you think you know, everything you don't know, bring it in. And hold. Take one full breath in, pause, top of the breath, squeeze everything. And then exhale, release everything, release the holding, release the breath. Told you, simplest pose and most complicated. Good. Give yourself a moment. And then your option of an inversion, if you'd like. So if you want to come onto hands and knees or do headstand, handstand, you're welcome to come into that. If you want to come onto your back for shoulder stand, if you have a wall and you're thinking legs up the wall is just the thing for you today, certainly welcome to do that. Even if you're just laying on your back, a block underneath your seat and the legs up. Even if you don't have a block, lay on your back, kick your legs up. Good, but choose something that feels like a little upside down. Nice. I used to say, if you can't choose, I'd choose for you, but it's a little harder on Zoom. Good. And very lovely if you are in shoulder stand and the lower back is a place of interest, is letting yourself hang out a little bit more and plow. So letting the toes come to the floor above the top of the head. Keeping the hands at the lower back. And as you come into plow, maybe letting the knees get a little bit softer. So you're still lifting through your spine, but you're not insisting that the legs have to be perfectly straight. So maybe letting the knees bend. Nice, Robin. Perfect, Mark. Good. And then of course, if being in plow for an extended period of time feels like it's a little much, take the legs back up to shoulder stand. Just let yourself move between those two places. Good. To feel your poses as a living, dynamic expression of you, not something that you get into and that you maintain or that you manage. That you are continuously expressing through the pose. You are continuously finding a flow of energy, a flow of focus, flow of awareness. You are finding yourself, a deep experience of yourself, not surface level. Not just my hamstrings, my quads, my back, my chest, my shoulders. Keep breathing deeply wherever you are. Just another minute. An interesting thing in inversions too, to notice we get to a point where we're like, oh yeah, I think I'm done with this. Not because we feel like we need to come out, but we're just done. We just don't feel like paying attention anymore. Right? So it's often said 3 minutes inverted is what is recommended. And if you've never set a timer for yourself and really just let yourself be in an inversion for a full 3 minutes or as long as you really can go, trying to wait out those 3 minutes, I highly recommend that. Again, an inversion that you feel that is safe and that you're confident in. I'm not talking legs up the wall. It's an interesting thing, right? To have the ability to find that edge in yourself and know that this is always where I stop, not because I have to, but because that's simply what I do. Anything more would feel vulnerable. Take 2 more deep breaths where you are. Nice, Robin. And then slowly start to release your inversion, whatever it looks like. If you're in headstand, handstand, letting the feet come softly to the floor. So navel engaged the whole time. Good. If you're in shoulder stand, rolling down the spine, navel engaged the whole time, bringing the hips towards the floor, bending the knees as the hips come low. Nice. And then pausing if you've been upside down, either in child's pose or resting on your back with the knees bent. Letting the head rock from side to side if you've been in shoulder stand. And slowly start to find your way onto your back if you are somewhere else. So as you're ready, find your way onto your back. Good. Bend your knees, please. Draw the knees in towards your chest. Come into happy baby. Let your knees go wide. Reach for your ankles or your feet. Good. Knees should be wider than your heels. So your knees go wide, your heels come slightly in. And then if you're holding your feet, especially press your feet up against your hands. So again, you activate those outer hip and thigh muscles by pushing up. Good. And you keep your low back drawing down. Nice, Alana. Nice, Andra. Nice, Kristen. Beautiful. Good, you guys. And then start to, on an exhale, maybe lift your shoulders and start to wiggle your arms, wrapping around your calves or moving so that you're lifting your shoulders up between the knees, like you're going to hook those knees up over your shoulders. And again, with maybe the thought that you can curl into yourself so much that you can eventually hook those feet behind your head. Same pose that you were doing before, just on your back. Curl into yourself and just fool with it, right? Rocking from side to side is great. Seeing what happens as you move the knees, move the hips, move the feet. Good. Don't squeeze so hard that it hurts, but draw yourself into the roundness of your spine. And then slowly release. Good. Unwind, please. Bring the bottoms of the feet together and drop your heels in towards your groin. So not feet to the floor. So it's a Baddha Konasana, but your knees are angled up towards your armpits, heels in towards your groin. Yeah. So again, don't let the knees fall forward. Keep them angled up towards your armpits. So again, you have the full width of your lower back. Knees up, feet up, just for a breath. So you can squeeze your knees in just a little bit. Again, hug in, squeeze the knees towards your outer ribs. And then still with that low back anchor to the floor, let the knees go wide. Excellent. And then bring the knees all the way back together, please. Cross the right thigh on top of the left, stacking the knees. Separate the feet, reach for the ankles or the shins. So Gomukhasana, legs on your back. Good. You know all of your tricks. That's the exploration of the mind, is to know all of your tricks. This is the way that I stop myself. This is the way that I handle things, but never resolve things. These are my excuses. These are my escape patterns. These are my avoidance patterns. No criticism. I've got them too. Just know them. Because that's the exploration of the mind, and then the exploration of everything else is what happens when you stop running in those ways. When you stop using those as a way to get away from that feeling of being really vulnerable, really open. Good. Release the ankles, please. Bring the shins towards each other. So the legs are still stacked, right thigh on top of left, shins towards each other. Good. And with no hands, just hug the knees in towards your chest with the legs wrapped, squeeze in. Good. Shins connected. So it's like you're doing eagle on your back, knees in. Good. Low back down to the floor. Nice. And then stretch your arms out wide, please. Scoot your hips over to the right. Drop your knees to the left with the legs wrapped. Good. And if twisting with the knees in this position does not feel good, then unwind them and just stack the left knee on top of the right with no rotation, no wrap. Good. Have the knees slightly higher or in line with your hips if you can. Beautiful. And then unwind the legs, please. Come back to center, knees in towards your chest. Take the left thigh on top of the right, stacking the knees, separate the feet, reach for the ankles or the shins, Gomukhasana legs on the other side. Good. And keeping the low back anchored to the floor. Right, going into what feels like a deep dark and knowing it to be exactly the same as the blue sky. That it's not that you somehow enter into the experience of infiniteness, as you're already in it. But if you're so busy playing hide and seek with the avoidance or your whatever your mind's favorite games are, is you don't feel it. Right? We've placed it in the closet or we've pushed it to the side. And so as long as we are engaged in a lot of running, is we don't feel it. And so we think it's not us. The moment you stop running, as vulnerable as that feels, is that starts to fill in that space. Good. Release the feet, please. If you're holding, bring your shins against each other. So it's like you're doing eagle legs on your back. And with no hands, you squeeze the shins together, draw your knees in towards your chest. As your knees pull up, your low back roots down. So again, it's working the opposition here where you get really into that flex of the thighs, into the hip flexors. Nice, Jane. Good melody. Nice, Harriet. Good. And then go ahead and scoot your hips over to the left, please. Drop your knees to the right. And again, if twisting with the knees in this position does not work, unwind, stack the right knee on top of the left. Good. You can always stretch that left arm up alongside your ear if it feels like the shoulder is just being pulled uncomfortably towards the floor. What would happen if you didn't stop yourself? What would happen if you kept reaching really deep into those vulnerable places to say, I really want to know myself. I don't want to push it aside anymore. I aspire to know myself in every corner. Not just who I hope that I am, but to find out who I actually am, what I actually am. And then slowly unwind, come back to center, please, hugging the knees in towards your chest, bringing your forehead up to meet your knees, squeeze and hug. And Apanasana, right? Releasing. So curl into the length of your spine. And then slowly release, feeling each vertebra, each part of you as you extend the legs out in front of you. Extension of the core, arms alongside you, palms facing up, an extension of the heart. Long throat. Breathing from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. And from your feet all the way up to your head. An expression of that deep dark, the void. And equally an expression of the blue sky. You let the eyes close and let yourself drop into where you are, which is somewhere in that swirling mess of poison and grace. And don't worry that there's both, that there's poison and grace. Breathe in both. Don't run. And you take refuge in whatever energy, being, idea that holds you steady. That's what the refuge is. Holds you steady. So that we don't run. Very gently bring the awareness back to the breath. The body begin to stretch and move in whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw the knees in towards your chest and roll to your right side. Taking a moment before you begin to push the floor away, come back to an upright seated position. Hands coming to rest at the heart center. I think that maybe when we start a yoga practice or a spiritual practice, as we say to ourselves, right, if this is our intention at all, is to meet our own soul or meet our own selves, and we say, oh, I really hope it's like this. I really hope that this is who I am. I really hope that this is what I'm going to find. And then we start and we get an inch into ourselves and the poison starts coming and we're like, oh no, that's not at all what I thought I was going to find. And then the instinct is to run like hell. Or we make those little closets where we shove all the poison into and say, okay, well, if I just get past all of that, maybe I'm still who I think that I am. Stop running. This is the real practice, is to notice that that poison is there and let it be there. Don't run from it. Because in the running, we run away from not just the poison, but we run from our own grace. We run from our own soul. We run from our own experience of that infiniteness that you are already in. You cannot escape it. So we practice just not running. And don't think that that means that you can't ever run again. Don't worry. Keep running a little bit, but run a little bit less. Be aware that you're running. Give yourself a half a breath more with that discomfort or that uncertainty or that vulnerability, just a half a breath. And then the next time, give yourself a half a breath more. And the more that that openness continues to be what you are immersed in, is you'll stay. Because there's no more reason to run. So just practice that. Go deep with yourself right where you are. And when that vulnerability arises, don't run so fast. And that's what we call the practice. But we experience that wholeness is what is yoga. The practice is not running. Close with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Om. Sliding the thumbs to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week until I see you again. That can be tomorrow at 9:30. I'm back. But have a lovely, lovely day.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.